All right, so today we're going to do the second half of New England. Like I told you, last video was probably the most difficult subject matter that you'll have all semester. Today we're going to talk about being a bad Puritan. So there are some a little bit heavier things, but mostly pretty interesting, I think. So again, the New England and Northern Colonies created a society based largely on their Calvinist beliefs. Remember this whole idea about being chosen and that they were the city on a hill. So last time we talked about a short background in English history. We talked about Calvinism and then New England colonies and what is a good Puritan. Today we're going to talk about what is a bad Puritan, about King's Philip's War and how did the Puritan lifestyle not work for the Native Americans. And then we're going to look at a New England trial and you are going to be the judge. Okay, so what is a bad Puritan? Okay, so again, this is a little bit heavier on this part, but the rest will be a lot easier. So we have this town named Dedham, and it's an example of something that was formed right in the beginning and then kind of fell apart. So the original Puritans, were all on board of these different principles, but their kids just weren't interested. Their kids didn't even pretty much want to go to church. So what we're going to see is, for example, with church membership declines, the 1630s, we've got 80% are church members. 1660s, only 50% are members. What I need you to do is to choose several of these. I'll give you the official question in a minute, and to say what shut down. So the original values are closed, communal, and Christian. So closed means we're not going to let other people into our community. Communal means we're going to share everything, and Christian, of course, means Christian. So go through, and I think the original assignment is choose 3 of the previous situations. For Dedham, explain which value shut down, closed, communal, or Christian. Please explain why you chose each answer. So take a look at this and how things were, how things became, what shut down. And you're just going to say closed, communal, Christian, and then tell me why. Okay, so that's question 1. Okay, so we can't maintain our ideal. Everything's falling apart, so we're going to persecute and kick out dangerous elements. Maybe that'll make things, better. Maybe we'll get back to our, city on a hill role model status. So this is just kind of fun. You don't need to write any of the answers down, but you probably should pay attention, because remember, when you're a judge, you're going to need to use some punishment. So you can get some ideas from this. In the early colonial period, churches had a person called a tithing man. If a tithing man saw a man going to sleep during the service, his job was to, which one do you guys think it is? It's C, hit him in the head with a pole. 2, if a child broke the law in the colony. So remember, this is very patriarchal. Who would get the punishment? The father could be punished, B. 3, disagreeing or questioning a minister could result in being, believe it or not, C, put to death. 4, a person who preached falsely or spoke against the religion was sometimes punished by putting, it was D, a hot awl through his or her tongue. So it's basically a tongue piercing. And 5, when someone was convicted of a crime and not executed, they would sometimes be, it was A, branded on the hand. Okay, so think about the Puritans. They were very serious about staying pure, right? Okay, so why do you think the punishments were so extreme? I kind of just gave that to you, right? They needed to stay pure. Go back to John Winthrop, right? Be careful about calling Puritans arrogant. We're actually being kind of arrogant when we're calling them arrogant. So just, try to understand what's their perspective. I mean, they were terrified. Yes, they were arrogant, but they were also, though, trying to just be right with God. And their way was pretty extreme. Okay, so what I need you to do is take a look at a couple of primary sources. I'm going to give you some background on Anne Hutchinson. So Anne Hutchinson was very early on. She came to Boston in 1631, but she was already kicked out by 1635. So she had a lot of kids, like over, 10 kids or something. When she was going through her trial, they were so mad at her that she was like, really, really far along, and they made her stand. And she was in her later, 40s. They made her stand the entire trial, which was several days. So take a look at her document. Tell me, why, how was she a danger? The term antinomianism is something she preached, which means against the law. She didn't believe that people should have to obey laws in order to be saved. It's actually pretty much Orthodox Christianity, but the Puritans didn't like that. Remember, they like all their laws. Okay, next one is Roger Williams. He also came in 1631, and he was kicked out by 1635. By the way, Anne and Roger were both kicked out and sent to Rhode Island. And Anne, by the way, I forgot to mention this, a couple of things. First off, people were so afraid of her that they started Harvard College, the Harvard that we know today. They were trying to fight against her beliefs. And secondly, she was killed by natives actually in New York. But both of them originally were sent to Rhode Island. But anyway, so Roger came, and John Winthrop really liked him and said, we want you to have a church. But Roger knew that he would probably get in a lot of trouble, so he didn't want to have a church, but he did finally agree to it. Then he got in trouble. Now, John Winthrop liked him so much that he gave him a heads up and said, they're going to send you back to England to go to prison. Why don't you escape right now? But this is what Roger Williams believed. He did not believe in forced worship. He believed in buying land from the natives. He was actually very progressive. After his life was threatened, he escaped and created a colony and a charter in which God was not mentioned. He created a democracy and was the first to argue for separation of church and state. So what I want you to do is to say, refer to the following list, explain using 2 of his accomplishments or values. There's no primary source for him, but just this. And then question 4, how is Thomas Granger a danger? This is going to be pretty interesting because Thomas Granger is going to engage in bestiality. In other words, he's going to be having sex with a lot of animals. So take a look at that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about witches and how they were a danger. And we have in 16, you see throughout this first line, for about 15 years, they accused about 79 people. The next, 24 years, they accused 75. But for some reason, from 1692 to 1693, they accused 200 people, and they executed 19, mostly women. So we're going to take a look at why was that? Why did they believe what they believed? So how could they believe that? First off is a lack of control. When you have a baby that's just dies, you feel out of control, right? So you want to blame somebody. So that's actually, you got blame sometimes the midwives. If you have maybe a disease or whatever, you want to blame somebody. Supernatural belief, they had a heavy belief that Satan was all around and the angels were all around. And lastly, their lives were very densely intertwined. They were very involved with each other. I grew up in the same town in Manhattan Beach. Some of you probably grew up in the same town all your life. And you know that you know people from different ways. They might have been your employer. Your family might have employed somebody. They might have, gone to church with you or been involved in some organization or gone to school with you. Same thing here. They're all extremely intertwined, and that leads to a lot of these accusations. Some of the people that were accused were people that had large land. Well, especially a woman that maybe was, a widow. She'd be very vulnerable, and if you accuse her of being a witch, well, it's right next to you. Maybe we can take over that land. Okay, so the following 5 slides are from a witch trial, and we can tell what the Puritans believed about witches by paying attention to their questions. You will be answering the question, what did a witch do, for 2 of the following slides. I'll repeat the question officially after the 5 slides. Okay, so take a look at this. This is actually one of your documents, but I've divided it up. So what are they accusing Tituba of doing? And what is she saying that she did do or didn't do? This is one of my favorite, we ride upon sticks. Okay, and then this is another woman that's being accused, and then this is another. Okay, so what I want you to do is choose 2 of the preceding slides, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, and or 5. Answer the question using a code analysis. What did a witch do? What did they believe witches did? Now, we're going to use these pictures later, but I want you to take a look. And this is 1A. These are pictures from the 1600s, which I'm kind of giving you an answer right there. Okay, this is an interesting picture that I want to go over, but what is happening here is they're taking from the medieval period. They're called trials, and what they would do is they throw a woman into the water. If she floated, they believe that the baptismal water has rejected her and she actually is a witch. If she sinks, then she is not a witch. So you kind of get it, right? She's going to die either way. They actually did take her out if she did sink, but that was called a trial, and you're darned if you do, darned if you don't. Okay, so let's look at 3 historians and what they believed about witches. So John Adamos, he's a modern day historian. He believed that when he looked at the evidence that witches were older, they had no kids, they were lower class, so they were a little more vulnerable. They believed in folk religion. They might be a midwife. So remember, if your child dies at the hands of a midwife, you might claim that they're a witch, and they kind of were strange. Carol Carlson starts, and she's a historian again. She says that the people that were mostly accused of convicted, executed were female inheritors without male heirs. So they were pretty vulnerable. So take a look at that. And Elizabeth Rice has a very interesting theory, again, modern day historian. She says that more women than men were accused, convicted, and executed because of the different way men and women look at sin. So normally what I would do is I'd start at one side of the room, and I'd say, okay, so imagine that you are a woman that maybe is having an affair with a pastor, and he's married and you're married, and so you start to say, well, maybe I really am a sinner, and maybe I have agreed to follow Satan, and maybe I really am a witch. Now a man on the other hand would say, I have a drinking problem and a gambling problem, but it really is something that I can stop at any time. So you see how the women are sort of taking that on the inside, and men are saying, no, it really isn't a problem. So I usually show a film clip too where Jodie Foster is in this movie called Flight Plan, and what she says is that women usually kill within. So women usually would kill their children, men would kill outwardly. So women take things inwardly, which makes them more maybe susceptible or vulnerable to being accused as a witch, and men would say, hey, I'm not. So what would happen is, even when a man was brought forward, the other guys on the judgment panel would say, no, we know this guy, he's not a problem. The women, again, if they didn't have husbands, they were very vulnerable to being accused, convicted, and executed. So finally, in the 1711, we do say we're sorry we killed everybody, killed 19 people. And actually at this point we stopped saying that we're Puritans in the New England, we say that we're Yankees. So take a look at these pictures too. You're going to be doing an activity with the pictures 1A and then 1B and to 5B. So these are pictures from the 1800s. And I want you to take a look at how the women are viewed. Are they viewed as victims? Are they viewed as these horrible people? So you've just seen two sets of slides, one set from the Puritan period and one set from the 1800s. Please choose one from 1A through 5A and then one from 1B through 5B. So let me just remind you of 1A, and here we go here, 1A, 2A, right? And then these ones are, there we go. So you're going to compare them. So what I want you to do is answer each for each one. Yeah, and please remind me of the question so it's a little bit easier for me to follow. I'll give you full credit if you remind me of the question too, and you have good answers. Okay, so answer these questions, and these will be worth a lot of points. Okay, so the next one is going to be, how did the Puritan lifestyle not work for the Native Americans? And what happens in New England is we have a gentleman named King Philip, and King Philip was actually Native American. His name was oh my gosh, I forgot his name, Metacomet. Anyways, he is the son of the man that welcomed in the Pilgrims. So this is in the 1660s. He's the third one to sign a treaty. His father and then his uncle, now him, are signing a treaty with the whites. This is all in New England. But he does rise up about 15 years later, and they start to go after the whites, and the whites go after the natives. The natives would have won, except for they were addicted to alcohol, and some of them, went on the white side. But what I want you to do is to look at some questions, and you're really going to be guessing on this, but they're educated guesses. So we believe that there's this, the cows and pigs were involved in this King Philip's War. So how did cows and pigs challenge native lifestyle? So what happened is the whites forced the natives to bring up cows and pigs. And so think about that. How's that going to challenge native lifestyle with their hunting and gathering? How did cows and pigs raising them challenge the native women's role? Remember, the women are farming, so who do they have to feed now? And how did cows and pigs challenge native spirituality? So, what did natives usually think of animals? That they're, spiritual beings, right? Well, did they think that of cows and pigs? So go ahead and answer those. And just to let you know, the natives ended up mutilating white cows and pigs. So they really they hated bringing them up. And the whites were pretty unfair to the natives about the cows and pigs. The natives said, hey, your cow and pig is eating my grain. They'd say, well, prove it. Another thing that they did is with the pigs, the whites only allowed them to, they didn't allow them to make an identification mark on the ears, although the whites were allowed to do that. So again, there's no clear answer. I just want you to do your best and try to answer, and I will help you. Okay, so normally in class we have a New England trial complete with witnesses, accusers, defendants, and judges. Since it's just you and me, you get to be the judge. So what you're going to do is you're going to choose two of the following scenarios and cast your judgment. Remember the judgments from earlier. You have ultimate power, but please don't be overly cruel or unreasonable. Puritans would never kill an unborn baby, but they might sew your lips shut. So I'm going to show you the different crimes, and you're going to choose a couple of these, and you're going to respond. So you can go back through these. So please turn in your judgments in the style of a Puritan judge, not a modern judge, or how you'd speak in the 21st century for 2 of the above cases. Okay, that is actually it, you guys. We talked about how the New England and Northern colonies were largely guided by their Calvinist beliefs. And that's it. Thank you very much.